All right, let's do a little recap note. So we've gone over how to solve for a side where the x comes up on the bottom like this one does. In this triangle over here, if we labeled this with O, H, and A, you would have the H, which always ends up on the bottom, coincidentally. I'll talk about that in another video. But this one ends up with an X on the bottom, and this one is solving for an angle. But all of them start out the exact same way. How do all of them start out? Well, all of them start out that we, first of all, label the triangle. So this is step 1. So we label O, H, A. That's what I do every single time. And then 2. Pick and sub into equation. How's my writing? Brutal. Getting used to this pen thing. And there is an upper limit to how good my writing can get to, because my writing with a pencil and pen is terrible as well. So label O, H, and A, pick and sub into an equation. And then solve. Now, solve comes in 3 different formats. So solve comes in format A, format B, and format O. Yuck. Let's erase that. C is what comes next. Right. Okay, now, what are we solving for? Okay, so once we label these things, so we label, like, just practice O, H, A, bam, quickly, we get O and H. So we're going to use sine. We use sine of 28 is equal to O over H, which is x over 12. And then we solve for x on top. So solve for x on top. How do we solve for x on top? Multiply. Then we solve for x on bottom. Now, x comes up on the bottom of the ratio over here. We go for O, A, H. So we have A and H this time. We have cos. We don't have that side. But what happens is we get the 2.4 over the x. So the x comes up on the bottom. And then what you have to do is you have to do a quick switch, divide. Now, I should probably put in here by sine, cos, or tan. So this is what you're multiplying by, or this is what you're dividing by, the sine, cos, or tan of that angle. Now, that's for the x's, that's for the sides on the top and bottom. Now, when you're solving for theta, or the angle, and you know what, I already put these things in brackets, so let's just go back here, and we're going to erase this. Oh, this is an ugly eraser. Why does it go in a soft erase? Okay, that's better. I don't want to just smudge it, I want it gone. Okay, so let's try this again. We have solving for theta, which I will just put like this because this is the angle. Now, what's the trick? To solve for the angle, we use inverse. Okay, so that's about it. We're going to make a note of this thing. So let's pause it a second. Okay, that's better. So now that you can read this thing, remember that our steps are label the sides with O, H, and A, as you can see that I've done up there for each one of those triangles. We are going to pick using Soh Cah Toa and sub the values into an equation. So you could either use the sine equation, sine theta equals over H, cos theta equals A over H, or tan theta equals over A. And then you solve. Now, there's 3 different ways to solve, so that's why I've got ABC. For side x on top, I multiply it up. For side x on the bottom, I multiply it up, and then I divide by the sine, cos, or tan theta. And then for an angle, I just use the inverse. So actually do the division and use the inverse. Okay, now, I wrote this out pretty so that you can use this as a note. So you can keep this open in a split screen, and then you can work through the problems while referring back to this if you need it. Hope it's pretty enough.